Ooh. Oh, jeez. Hello, everyone. Just getting everything set here so I don't knock everything over. All right. So I'm just gonna jump right in. Welcome to my latest video, where I am going to be talking about two things. About continuing on talking about our relationship to pain and how we can get the messages from our pain about what it is in our lives that need to change. Because remember, pain is never an illusion. We can't invent pain. Pain is always a reaction, it's always a response to something in the environment, something in your mind, something in your relationships, in your body, being out of alignment with that which supports life. Okay, that's all pain is. I know we like to spiritualize it and we like to make it a much bigger thing than it actually is, or we like to pretend that pain doesn't exist and that it's an illusion and it's a thing that we invent, but it's not. It's a simple biological mechanism that, because human beings are complex, we're not just physical beings. We have mental pain, we have emotional pain, we have spiritual pain, because these things, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about reality, what we believe about life, what we believe about ourselves, like I just said, dictates how we behave. And therefore, when we have a false belief, it's going to hurt, because that's reality feeding back to us out of alignment with truth, which is then going to cause actions that are out of alignment with truth, which are then actions that are antagonistic to our growth. Because again, the universe that we live in has a structure. It's not free floating, it's not just completely made up in our minds. There's a structure. It's a flexible structure, and it's a structure that we can build upon. It's a complex structure, yes, but there is a structure. So when we try to live in ways that are out of alignment with how the structure functions, we degrade ourselves, because we can't degrade the structure. We can't degrade this environment. We don't take apart reality. We break ourselves against it. And that's just a part of the observable truth of being a human, of being a person or a thing that's alive on Earth. Okay? So this is what we need to just come to terms with. So the next thing is understanding that we have pain for a reason. That it is allowing us to understand that what we believe, what we think is true, what we think is right, what we think is good, what we think is healthy, what we think is in alignment, that hurts, isn't. So again, when we get good at this, when we get good at feeling our emotional pain, feeling our mental pain, feeling our spiritual pain, before it becomes physical pain, that means that we can stop ourselves from living in ways that are out of alignment with truth, because we already knew, based on how it felt, that to continue on down the line of believing this thing is true and therefore that affecting my actions in this way. Because remember, there's no separation between what you believe and what you experience. You see? It's not that your beliefs create your experience, as in if you just sit there and think about having $1 million, you'll get $1 million. But the thing is, if you think about having $1 million and you really feel what that would feel like and all these things, it's going to start to shift your actions. It's going to shift the way you behave. It's going to shift the way that you focus on things, which may lead you down a path where you eventually make $1 million. But it didn't happen because you thought about it. It happened because you thought about it and then took actions based on those thoughts. You see? So when thoughts hurt, that's letting us know something is out of alignment, and then that's going to lead to actions that are out of alignment, that are harmful to us, and therefore we want to change them. So pain is never an illusion. But what the reason I think we get confused on that is because, again, our mindsets can be wrong, in the sense that we believe something that is incorrect and therefore are living an illusion. We are taking action as though reality is this way, when reality is in fact another way. You see? So the illusion in our minds is that this is how reality is, so I'm going to take action based on that reality being reality, and then I'm not going to get the results that I want. I'm not going to get the results I expect. I'm going to get painful results because those actions were out of alignment with the structure, right? If I think I can throw a ball over the railing and have it float, that's an illusion in my mind. But if once I throw the ball over there, it will play out in real reality. I won't get what I want. So the illusion in my mind causes the unwanted consequences in my real reality. So therefore, when I shift the illusion in my mind to something that is true about reality, it automatically feels good. And that's part of the reason why we can get into the spiritual world and into the spiritual thinking, that we can simply free ourselves from our pain by just changing our mindset. And it's like, to a degree, that is true, right? When we see that what we were believing was false, it's going to feel better immediately, because that's reality saying, okay, good, now you're closer to alignment. Your thinking is now closer in alignment to how reality actually functions. And then that is going to change how you act in reality, which will change the results you're getting in your life, which will lead to even more freedom from pain. Because pain, again, is simply acting and living and believing out of alignment with the structure. Now, the reason this is so challenging, the reason waking up out of this, so the reason we talk about taking the red pill and the waking up from the matrix and all of these things, is because we are social beings with physical biology that is programmed in certain ways to believe that survival and part of what is good for us as human beings in real reality is working together in community, is being a part of a community, right? None of us are islands who are capable of fully thriving, fully independently. If we were truly actually kicked out of the tribe and had to live fully on our own, that would be a very challenging existence. And for almost all of human history, if you got kicked out of the tribe with our limited technology, our limited understanding of reality, our limited capacities, and our exposure to the elements as human beings that are really not set up to defend ourselves and protect ourselves and hunt and do all these things, like we don't have the teeth, we don't have the nails, we're not physically dominant. So getting kicked out of the tribe would have meant death. So it's wired into our systems. Okay, so there's that. And then at the same time, again, as I talk about in every single freaking video, we are also dependent upon our caregivers for our first 7 years of life. For our first 7 years of programming, we did not have the capacity to provide for ourselves, to care for ourselves, to meet our own needs, to figure out our own pain, to learn from reality ourselves, and to grow and change and adapt based on that learning. We couldn't do it. We were dependent upon someone else outside of us for that. So we learned from 0 to 7 that pain gets taken away by somebody else. Pain gets taken away by somebody else who loves us. Because when parents, caregivers, love and accept us, they're more likely to meet our needs. When they're upset with us, when they reject us, when they abandon us, they are less likely to meet our needs. That's a survival threat to our biology. Okay? That's a survival threat to our biology. And so we then need to deal with that. Yes, we then have this biological response that says we're dying. Anytime we feel like we're being rejected, anytime we feel like we're being misunderstood, anytime we feel like our way of being is other than the group, there's that forever, for all of human history, trauma that's ignited. And there's the childhood trauma, those two things that come through our body that say, you're going to die. This is a physical threat. Mom is pulling away from you, you're going to die. That's what your body thinks. So part of awakening to our traumas and awakening to what is really out of alignment with reality that we believe is completely true. So remembering this, that again, where I was going with that, is that we are programmed to believe that the consensus reality, what we were raised in, yes, the belief systems we were raised in, the culture we were raised in, the religion, the education, the government, there's a fundamental assuming that some of that has to be correct, that some of it must be what is true, and that if we are not able to feel good in it, so if we have mental, emotional, physical pain that's coming up, and everyone looks at us and says, your life is normal, so what's wrong with you that you're in pain? Yes? That is where most of us are at. That is why most of us think we're taking the red pill. We really do. We're like, I don't believe in the government. I don't listen to CNN. I'm alternative in some way. But it's like the conditioning and the consensus reality is the water. And we're not even seeing it. We're not even seeing what we're not questioning. We're not even seeing what's hurting. Because it's so deeply ingrained that this is normal. We've never seen anything else. And if we have seen something else, it's been demonized and vilified, and we look at it in a way that's like, it's completely threatening, and it must be wrong. And we do that to protect ourselves, right? And so this is why I was going to say, there might be things that I'm going to say in this video that make you want to judge me, that make you feel very uncomfortable, that make you feel very like I'm wrong and I'm crazy. And there's going to be the parts of you that think either that doesn't apply to me, or I don't have to think about that, or that's wrong, or whatever, she's just crazy. Or you might want to character assassinate me, okay? And I want you to just know that that's normal, okay? If there's a part of you that wants to start attacking my appearance, start attacking the things that I'm saying, attacking my lifestyle, nitpicking the things that I'm saying, just be with that and know that that's normal, because I'm going to be probably confronting your version of reality. And we fight that as human beings. It doesn't matter how painful it is. Okay? It doesn't matter how painful it is. It doesn't matter how terrible the results that we're getting. It doesn't matter how just very obviously it would be great if what we believe wasn't true. It doesn't matter how strong that is. For all of us, questioning what we believe, no matter how painful it is, what we believe, and no matter how awesome it would be if the other thing is true, we are going to attack it. We are going to defend ourselves. We are going to say, no, I'm not going to look at that. We are going to go into fight or flight. Because challenging our belief systems, challenging what we believe, is very scary. Again, no matter how painful it is, the beliefs that we have are how we're running our lives. It's how we're making our decisions. It's how we are orienting and navigating. So when we actually start to question that stuff, we're losing our foundations. So we would literally rather have a foundation that sucks, but at least we know how to work with that. We know how to deal with that. We know how that works. We know how to predict that, than to have let go of a really painful belief and have nothing to replace it with, or to have something to replace it with that's definitely going to get us rejected because it's out of alignment with what everyone else is doing. Okay? And a lot of us talk a big game about being capable of being our own self and stepping into our own truth and living our own reality, but we don't recognize how deeply afraid we are of being rejected, and how much most of us would rather literally sacrifice our entire lives doing whatever it takes to like try to fit in. Like, we will literally self-help and spiritualize our pain for our entire lives, to never have to look at maybe society is just wrong. Right? We make it this big, complicated, the ego thing, and we'll literally sit there and meditate and feel our feelings and and do all this mental gymnastics in our head for hours and 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 hours a day to try to figure out what's wrong with us. We'll spend thousands of dollars on psychotherapy. We'll do the Tony Robbins thing, and we'll walk on fire, and we'll take medicate. We'll do whatever it takes to not have to just say maybe they're wrong, and maybe I'm just going to have to do it myself. Right? This is reality. Most of us will just, we want to believe there's something wrong with us. We will hold on to the idea that there's something wrong with us until the day we die. We will work, like I said, self-improvement, meditation. We'll do 1 million ayahuasca retreats. We'll go to Vipassana 80 times. We'll fast. We'll do all this stuff that is incredibly uncomfortable and doesn't really get us good results over and over and over again in order to avoid facing the reality that if it hurts, it's not true. Everyone else is doing it. They're gonna attack me and reject me if I change. And yet, I would rather just believe that I'm broken and that everyone has it figured out and I just need to get my shit together to fit in, then maybe what I was taught is not true. What everyone else is doing isn't right. I'm not going to walk off the cliff with them. Okay, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I was the type of person that said, okay, I don't want to walk off the cliff with everyone. So when people come to me and they ask me, like, how do I figure out what my pain is trying to tell me? Of course, I start with just practice being with it. Just keep being with the pain. Just keep learning. And from the vantage point of compassion for yourself. What if it's not your fault that you're in pain? What if you're not broken? What if pain is not your ego? What if pain is not an illusion? And we just start by building up this muscle. And this is the reason that I teach this. Building up our muscle of not abandoning ourselves when we're in pain. Because that's when we're most vulnerable. Because, again, remembering, pain is showing us where our version of reality, and therefore probably consensus reality, is wrong. So we're vulnerable there. What we know isn't true. What we think isn't real. How we're living, how we think we're going to get the results that we want, we're not. It's wrong. It's out of sync with reality. We're breaking ourselves. We're never going to find health, happiness, fulfillment, that path. That's why it hurts. So we're vulnerable there. And then what do we want when we're vulnerable? Someone to give us the answer. Someone to save us. Someone to rescue us. Someone to make us feel secure. Someone to make us feel safe. Someone to make us feel good. Because if we can get into a state of rest and digest, if we can get into a state of safety when we're in pain, we can actually question what's going on. When we go into fight or flight when we're in pain, which we're gonna do when we start to recognize that pain is asking us to question our reality, which then questions our part in the whole social dynamic that we're in. Because again, anyone who's ever changed their diet or started exercising or did something that should seemingly have just been about you, all of a sudden, your family's nitpicking you, your friends are nitpicking you, your community, everyone you know is all up in your grill about you changing your way of being. Even if it has absolutely nothing to do with them. You're a threat now. Because you just exposed that the way everyone else is doing it isn't the only way. And if you start getting good results, that's even worse, right? Humanity does not celebrate success. Humanity only celebrates success in the culturally conditioned, societally acceptable ways that we think success is going to happen. If you get success eating a vegan diet, which is not the societal norm, there are going to be so many people who want to attack you and tell you that it's not working and you're going to die and all your teeth are going to fall out and they're going to nitpick every little thing about your appearance, even if all the meat eaters look worse. Like, it doesn't matter. If you're not perfect now, doing something different, we're going to attack you. Better is not better. It's a threat. You see? And then we feel completely threatened. We feel alone. We feel attacked. We feel unsafe. We can't trust the results we're getting because it makes us feel othered. It makes us feel different. It makes us feel rejected, which to our nervous system says you're going to die. So whatever it is you're doing, you better stop. Right? And so we got to understand that. We start to practice the muscle of not abandoning ourselves when we're in pain, so we can stop going into fight or flight when we're in pain. So we can learn how to be on our own side when we don't know what's going on. And so that we can be on our own side when the world eventually rejects us for what we're doing. When we start to take the steps to actually follow what our pain is telling us, it's going to make you change. It's going to make you different from the consensus. It's going to make you do things that are different from how everyone else is doing them, unless you're in a state of bliss. Unless everyone around you is in a state of bliss because you're all doing alignment. If that's not the case, things need to change. And people around you are going to be threatened because now you're threatening their foundation. Just by the very fact of you doing something different proves their narrative incorrect. That what they're doing is the only way and what they're doing is the best. And then they are going to attack you. They are going to reject you. They are not going to question their own selves because then they would have to change. And then that might mean they get rejected. So you see, it's this big loop. So we all have this physical reaction to being in pain and to becoming aware of what is out of alignment in our lives, to making changes. And we have to have compassion for ourselves that that's true because we are so wired that rejection equals death. From childhood all the way through. None of us are really adults who know that I can provide for myself if everyone else rejects me. We still get all triggered. When we are different, when we are rejected, when we're not seen, we feel like we're going to die. And that's just reality. That's just how it is. So we have to have compassion for ourselves. That this actually taking the red pill, if you want to put it in that metaphor, is not just reading alternative news and not wearing a face mask and doing a couple ayahuasca trips. That's not what's out of alignment in society. Okay, like these little nitpicky things that we get all on about. That's not it. And so this is what I'm going to say. These are the things that are going to make you say, okay, she's crazy. When I tell you what I actually think and what I have discovered on my own path about what is out of alignment in society, why is it so wrong? It's everything. It's the whole thing. It's the entire foundation upon which the structure was built. But I want to start first with understanding that, again, this is going to be a physical thing, and why embodying our trauma is such an important thing. That we are physically going to feel like we're going to die. We are all going to have that physical adrenaline response when we question our beliefs, when we're in pain, when we're doing this work. It's not just mental. There's going to be a physical response because the body, all stress is physical threat stress. All stress is physical threat stress. Like your body believes you are being attacked by a lion right now. When you see your boss walk in front of your office and you feel like he's going to yell at you, in your mind you know you're not physically going to die anytime soon. You can reason that. Even if you get fired, you've got some savings, you can get another job. Like it will be months and months and months and months and months and months and months before you're starving to death on the street. You see? But in that moment where there's like a threat that your boss might be mad at you, to your body, that's a lion right here, right now. It's not. That could lead to a whole cascade of events where maybe in 3 years I'll die. To your body, that's we're going to die right now. So then your body is expecting you to fight or flee, to burn off that adrenaline. And if you don't, which none of us do, right? So from childhood forward, most of us have been experiencing these mental stresses that have signaled to our body we're under attack, We need to fight or we need to flee. We didn't fight or flee. So now we're stuck in loops of physical trauma because the body thinks that attack, thinks that threat is still there. Do you see? Do you see why it would think the threat is still there? If you don't fight or flee and then come into relative safety, the body says we are still under attack. And that accumulates over and over and over again. So now we all walk around like this. We're all stressed. We're all bent out of control because we all have all this like adrenaline running through our body. It's being triggered over and over. The body is thinking we're still in that state of threat from when we were 3 years old. And it gets triggered, re-triggered over and over and over again because the body didn't process that it's over. So now everything that looks even sort of like that triggers that same adrenaline response. And every time you don't fight and every time you don't flee, your body just thinks you're hiding. But the threat is still there. And it's getting re-triggered, re-triggered, re-triggered. We're flashing back. Everything in our current reality looks and feels to us like that. That's why when we do when was the first time you felt this memory? When was the first time you felt this? And it takes you back to your childhood. Imagining that went different doesn't solve it. Because to your body, it didn't go different. To your body, the lion is there. You still have not fought it or run from it. So everything that triggers that fear in you, that's similar to that, your body thinks that's the tiger still. That's the tiger, that's the tiger. So we have to embody our pain. We have to embody our trauma and shake and punch and scream and move that trauma through the body to signal to your body we did it. Okay, and this is why we also get caught in loops of addiction and coping mechanism. Because if we felt the threat, and then we did X behavior. So early on, we learned how to numb in child ways by eating or watching TV or just going numb. And then we slowly learn more and more how to numb with food and alcohol and drugs and sex. We stimulate. We suppress parts of ourselves. Your body now thinks that's the thing you did to survive that threat. So anytime that same fear is ignited in you, in your current reality. So in the childhood, you were expressing something about yourself and it made your parents reject you. So you learned how to suppress that by not crying or by eating or by running away or by being quiet. Now, anytime your body wants to express that part of yourself, you're going to do your coping mechanism because that's what it thinks saved your life. Because remember, being rejected was death. So anything you did to stop yourself from being who you were that got you rejected in your childhood is to your body the life-saving mechanism. So why are you so caught in your coping mechanism? Because your body thinks it's saving your life. Every time you're about to be your real self, your body goes, don't worry, just drink. You can shut that down, right? And how you're coping with being who you think you need to be in this society, right? How you're getting through school, how you're getting through the work that you don't actually want to be doing, how you're getting through the hustle culture, the marriage, the living in all the ways that we live that are completely out of alignment with humanity. We're coping. These are our strategies. It's like, why are you addicted to Netflix? Because everything hurts. Everything hurts. And it's normal. And you're told that it's you. And you're sick of it. You're at the end of your rope. You are trying so hard to fit in and do the right thing. And it hurts. And all the right things hurt. And all the wrong things in society feel good to you, but at the same time are programmed into your nervous system as threat. So your body won't even let you do it now. You binge instead, right? You're 10 feet deep into the Netflix series before you even recognize that you were feeling something. We're completely disconnected from our humanity. And it's our feelings that are telling us what is right and wrong. So now, the processing physically, the embodying our pain, the when did I first feel this way and what did I need to do? And what was I being told and what was I being indoctrinated about? That's important work. That's my mystery school. We gotta do that work. The embodiment, the yelling, the screaming, the moving the trauma through, the not just laying there when we're feeling it necessarily. Huge. Learning to be on our own side when we're in pain so that we can actually love ourselves into a state of safety, so we can actually look at what we need to look at. Why is this hurting? Right? And when we get into a state of safety, when we're in pain, and we stop making it what's wrong with me, that's when we're going to start to be able to see, maybe it's the job. Maybe I want to be an artist and I wasn't allowed to. Maybe I want to express in this way and that's not okay. Maybe I don't like this. Maybe I don't like that. And the more we do this, the more you're going to see the way that we're living life in our society is completely antithetical to the human being. So again, we have all these social justice movements going on right now. And great. But I'm going to tell you, nothing is going to change. I guarantee you nothing is going to change. We're going to bang our pots and we're going to yell and we're going to scream and we're going to demand for reform, and it's not going to happen. Because we've done this a million times before, and it's because the foundational system of most modern societies centered around productivity, the economy, the commoditization of the human being, the simplification of the human being, the idea that we all have to fit in order to feel good, that we can buy our identity, that we can buy our value, that we can earn our value through working for it, that we are not an interconnected species, that we can sit in offices all day, not go outside, that it's reasonable to have to sacrifice time with our children, time with our families, time to cook and clean for ourselves in order to hustle and produce. It's inhumane. We have to be disconnected from our feelings to make that happen. And you want to know how slavery happens? How racism happens? How terrorism happens? How abuse of any kind, sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse? It's not evil people. There's no such thing as an evil person. Not one being on this planet is evil. There are no lizard people. There are people living from their brain stem. I'll go for that, for sure. But no, what is really happening? People are traumatized. They are being forced to live in a way that is out of alignment with truth. Slavery started with, we don't like being ruled by the queen. We want more security. We want the riches for ourselves. We don't want to be ruled, we want to rule. Because the only way to get my needs met is to be the king, the chief, in control. Foundational, out of alignment, understanding number one. There's not enough for all of us. And the only way to secure my spot is to control the resources. So we're going to steal these human beings, convince ourselves that they're less than human, and they will work for us to do the work we don't want to do, to get us the resources we think we need to survive. That's all the way back through all tribes. That's all of human history. That did not start with African slavery. Humans have been brutalizing humans for as long as humans have been existing. Humans have been in this power play of the toxic parent-child relationship, essentially. I am in control of you, and I will provide for you to the degree that you work to give me control over the resources. That is inhumane. That's a completely ridiculous way of living. But it is how we all live. Capitalism is that. You don't believe in billionaires. You don't believe in government. You don't believe blah, blah, blah. Okay, but you do believe in it. Because if you're still living trying to get more than you need, if you're a middle class person who is making enough, but you're now working harder so that you can make more money, so you can have the bigger house and the car, and you're sending your kid to daycare so you both can have a job, even though you could make it work. You see what I'm saying? You will work hard so that you have to go to Starbucks, and you have to order on Amazon, and you have to use processed food. You are voting with your dollars for racism and slavery and underprivileged people not having what they want and need. Everyone thinks I'd be the benevolent billionaire. If the money were more in my hands, I know where to redistribute it better. None of us know that. And until we have a complete system change where we stop making it about somebody being dominant and we stop making it about we all need to earn our place. And these are the things that are valuable in the society and these are the things that aren't. Fuck that. Until we can become humane, every human being deserves to have their needs met. We have the resources, we have the technology that no one should have to work for their survival. We all will not be billionaires when we do that. We give up the American dream that we can achieve the 7-figure month and the big house and the 7th car and the trips and all this shit. We give that up so that we have what we need. And then everything that's left over, no one has to go without. Not one person in any community should have to not have a house or food. It's mind-boggling at this point. If we did that, where we stop with this idea that we are here to earn our value through some sort of monetary gain, through constant, and like again, so many of us are not recognizing that buying into hustle culture, buying into I'm going to work harder, I should be more successful, I have some success in what I'm doing, so I should try more, I should push harder, I should produce more. Even if you're not even thinking about it in terms of like getting from it, but you're sacrificing your health, you're sacrificing your time with your family, you don't go outside, you don't exercise, you have to order food in, you need to drink at the end of the night and drink coffee to get you going in the morning, you need Netflix, you're on pharmaceuticals in order to do that hustle. You're the billionaire. You are feeding into the system that is destroying everyone just as much as anyone else is. You may not think of yourself as a consumer, but if you're an overproducer, it's the different side of the same coin. If you are still fundamentally rooted in my value comes from what I produce, and I better be producing at all times, and I'm talking to myself here, you're bought into the system. It hurts because it's not true. It's not reality. It's not how it works. Reality does not live like that. If you're a human out in nature, there are diminishing returns. There's a certain amount of work you have to do to gather food and build a shelter. But then if you keep working past what you need, you exhaust yourself. And your chances of survival are less when you're exhausted. So in nature, in real reality, not human consensus, when you go overboard, you're punished, if you want to look at it that way. In real reality, hustle culture would get you killed. It would push you past the limit of how much you can replenish yourself, and nature can't help you with that. If you're going to break yourself, you're going to break yourself. So when we now apply that to our real culture, our fake culture, the only reason we're making it through is because we're artificially drugging ourselves. We're artificially stimulating and numbing ourselves in order to numb the pain that's telling us you're going overboard. This is too much. So in real reality, we all do what we're capable of doing to support our little community. In real reality, we have communities of people where we all do what we do for the tribe. And I don't mean that in a cultural reference. I mean however you want to say community. What you do for your community, what you do for your neighborhood, what you do for the people close to you, that is required for everyone to survive. And then you don't do more than that. And we don't all give the same thing. If everyone grew zucchinis because we all decided that's what's valuable, again, we'd die. No. We would recognize individuality is a thing. So this whole like able-bodiedness and intellectual things being more important than other, that would all go out the window. Because we would start to recognize each one brings their thing. So like the mystical person who's very bad at hunting would not be on the hunting team. The mystical person would be the one that everyone goes to for their stuff. The hunters would not be expected to build cabins. They don't have that skill. The people who do have that skill would do that. We would all recognize that when each one of us brings our thing to the table, the community thrives. And again, anyone overdoing gets exhausted, can't play their role, we all lose. So it would not be what we're all so afraid of in America and places that are afraid of socialism, where it's a few people working and everyone else takes advantage of it. That's not how it would work. Because again, when humans feel supported, when humans feel loved, when humans feel valued, we want to do something. We want to offer something. There's not a single human being on the planet who, when they were actually valued for who and what they are, would sit there and be like, good, serve me. That comes from scarcity. That doesn't come from having our needs met. That does not come from having our needs met. Laziness is not what happens when we get our needs met. And no, we're not all the same. We're not all mentally the same. We're not all emotionally the same. We're not all spiritually the same. We're not all physically the same. And in fact, none of us are the same as anyone. And if we started to say, okay, how do we work together to get our needs met? Because again, this whole thing of like, I want to get the millions. I want to have the bigger house. Because we're all under this illusion that things are going to make us feel secure. That it's going to take away that fear of death, and it's going to take away that fear of being alone. And it's not. It doesn't matter how rich you get. It doesn't matter how many friends you have. It doesn't matter how successful you become in your career. It doesn't matter how aligned your work is with your passion. It doesn't matter how abundant you are. It doesn't matter how many GoFundMes you give to. It doesn't matter how much you're redistributing the wealth to where you think it should go. It's out of alignment with truth. It's not going to make you feel safe. It's not going to make you feel secure. That's the first thing. We all need to face our fear of death and our fear of loneliness. And that's a part of the reason why I'm saying this social justice thing, nothing's going to change. Because it's rooted in we are so afraid of death. And we are so afraid of isolation. And our separate consciousness, thinking that we are a separate being, not understanding that we are a separate being, a part of a tribe, a part of a community, a part of an ecosystem. Like, I know it seems like it's just one or the other. People are either like, we're separate and that's it, or we're all one. It's not. It's not that simple. We are separate individuals, and we have to come to terms with that. You are not like me. I am not like you. It's never going to be that. It's not your ego. It's reality. And you are a part of the whole. There's no separation between those two concepts. They exist simultaneously. Just like the liver exists because of the body. It is alive because the body's alive. It's a part of the body. If the liver is sick, the whole body suffers because it is one with the body. But if you try to treat the liver like it's the heart, you expect it to do what the heart does. You give it the nutrients that the heart needs and don't give it the nutrients that the liver needs, the liver dies. It's not all one. It's not all one. The heart and the liver are separate, but they are a part of an ecosystem, and the two concepts cannot be separated. You can't treat you like everyone else because you're not like everyone else. But we can't take you out of the context of everyone else because without everyone else, you don't exist. It's both. So how do we deal with this? If we are saying we really want social reform, you don't want racism anymore. You don't want terrorism anymore. You don't want poverty anymore. What are you going to do to face your fear of death? What are you going to do to conceptualize and rectify the fact that you are an individual with it that is a part of a collective? You are not separate. You're not alone, ever. You can't be. I make a joke. If you ever feel alone, just Google how many different bacteria that aren't you live in your gut. And the number of little bacteria that are constantly with you. You're not alone. And we have to go on this journey where we stop being so afraid that if humanity rejects us, that we're alone. It's not reality. Right? We have to develop our connection to reality, not people. Reality. What is that bigger thing that's animating life? People call it God, people call it spirit, people call it whatever. I don't care what you call it. You need to love yourself safe enough that when you're alone, you feel like you're not alone. And that's a rest and digest thing. Seems like it. Glenn asked, do individuals have to have the awakening experience to know we are not alone? Well, do you feel not alone? You don't have to do anything. Whatever you need to go through to have you recognize that you're not alone, that you can't be alone, that that's impossible. You do whatever you need to do. If you need to take drugs, you need to go on a retreat, you need to fast, you need to just sit there and be with your feelings and love yourself safe. That's what I think it is. I mean, that's my easiest way. Because drugs are a thing that you have to do, and Vipassanas are a big deal that can just traumatize us more. And like the simplest way that I know that's the least traumatizing is to simply be with ourselves and learn to be on our own side so that we find safety within. That opens our perception. And to me, that's where the connection feeling comes from. Laura says, I find myself unable to see others as integral to my prosperity in the way my organs are integral to each other's prosperity. I've always had a tendency to see my own prosperity as separate from others. It's an illusion. So you got to work on that. And death is not death, it is life. Does anything die? We know that it doesn't, scientifically. Everything is just energy shifting form. So again, you got to face your own death. We have to face the fear of our own death. And you're going to do it a million times in your life. It's so important to face our own mortality and not run away from it. To let ourselves feel it. So again, it's developing this muscle to feel our pain and to feel our fear and to feel all these things we're afraid of. And instead of running away from them, going into them. That's why the spiritual path cannot be done. I don't think that drugs or Kundalini yoga or anything where we're amping ourselves up or fasting, or I don't think it does it. Because it disembodies us. I think the only way to get there is the slow, steady process of being with our pain, having that connection to ourselves, loving ourselves through it, seeing ourselves through it, getting to a state where we think we're going to die and then we don't. And then our perception opens. That's the only thing I've ever seen that actually changes people's brain chemistry. That's the only thing that's ever changed my brain chemistry. Is facing my trauma, embodying it, having that physical thing, and then working through it by being with it, and then observing reality, not my stories. And that's over and over and over again. So those two things. And then you need to stop colonizing yourself. You need to stop colonizing yourself. This idea that you need to be always productive, always on purpose, that your career has to be this purpose that you're constantly inspired by, that you're here to be a constant production machine, that what makes you valuable is the work you do that makes you money. And so you sacrifice the rest of your life for that. Your kids, your family, your friends, and to fit in, and you don't go outside, and you don't eat real food, and you do all this stuff so that you can have status. That's the problem. That's the system. And we're all bought into it. And like I said, we're all so afraid that if we let it go, then I'll just be lazy. I'll just be whatever. And it's like, yeah, you'll be out of fashion. You'll wear the same clothes that you've had for the last 6 years until they wear out. You'll have a small apartment that you live in. You'll have time to cook. You'll have time to go outside. You won't hustle. You won't have the latest and greatest. You'll have enough. And then you won't be over-consuming. And then you're not feeding the billionaires. You say you don't want billionaires, you have to stop relying on them. Which means you have to start to manage your own energy. Which means if you're over giving and you don't need to, over hustling and you don't need to, because again, we all think we need to. We think we need the house. We think we need the car. We think we need the extra thing, but we don't. You could do fine without it. And yes, it'll mean more work in your life, but that's human work. We have to become a humane society. And this overconsumption is not humane. It's inhumane. Pushing ourselves to be productive all the time is inhumane. And it's what everyone else is doing, and you're going to be looked at like you're lazy and you're poor and you're gross and you're whatever. Because it's none of us are going to be the benevolent billionaire. That's not how this is going to work. We are not going to shift the power or the money into enough people's hands until eventually it gets into the right hands. It needs to be redistributed so everyone has enough. And then if there's leftover, the people who want to fight for that can fight for it. But I guarantee you, no one will. Because what we're actually looking for is a fulfilling life. And stuff and status and money and relationships and travel and all, don't do it. And even like I said, I don't care how aligned you are in your career. If that's your life, you are never going to be satisfied. How much you nitpick the perfect relationship. If that's your life, you'll never be satisfied. If you don't have a human life that has some work, some food, some outside, some leisure, several relationships, a relationship with your fucking self, a relationship to reality, time to contemplate, time to shoot the shit and do fucking nothing, you will never be satisfied. Because those are the needs of the human being. And we keep thinking, if I just get the right job, more money, more friends, the better partner, the better body, I'll get there. No, you won't. Because it's a holistic thing. And it means you can't have massive success in one area, because then you have to neglect the rest. And so much as you're neglecting the rest, you will be unsatisfied. Over and over. Glenn says, have you experienced channelers who can guide you to clear your blind spots so you don't have to repeat the patterns again? You don't need to be a channeler, right? Like, we can talk to each other and I can hear when you're saying the same thing over and over again and doing the... Humans, we can just do that for each other. Again, we want to make it this magic thing, and it's freaking not. Talk to your friends. If your friends are paying attention to you, they will say, hey, you keep doing this over and over again. Maybe you need to look at that. If we were humane, that's what I'm saying. It's not aliens. Stop it. Just like, oh my God. People paying attention to other people will notice patterns. That's what our brains freaking do. It's, again, because we're so deeply disconnected from ourselves, we're not connected to each other. So it seems like magic when someone is like, hey, I think you're doing this over and over. It's not. You're just paying attention to somebody. We're not that complicated. We don't need an alien to tell us that if you keep going to this job, you're never going to be happy. You're inhumane. You don't need an alien for that. You don't need to be an experienced channeler. You can be a good friend. And this is what I'm saying. All this magic stuff, it's because we're disconnected from our humanity. It's humane to be able to feel someone else's pain. It's humane to be able to see someone else's pattern. It's humane to care about someone and help them out when they need a little help. It's humane. It's humane. It's just human. It's normal human. When we're not in fight or flight. It's not supernatural abilities. It's natural abilities that none of us have access to because we're fucking scared out of our minds all the time. So that's why I'm saying the only thing I teach is self-love. Because you got to make yourself your own safe place. And when you make yourself your own safe place, all of this stuff will become obvious. And then you will want to do different things. And you will have the capacity to do it. Because you will be able to be rejected and love yourself enough that you do it anyways. And I'm telling you that from personal experience. I don't monetize my company because I don't have to. I give away almost all of my content for free because I can. I have enough. So I give this because I have enough. I'm not going for more. I don't need the new clothes. I don't need the new iPad. I don't need the new anything. I've had the same backpack for 80 years. It's still broken. I will wait until that thing does not work. So, and this is the other thing. Stop. We don't need new technology. We need to stop consuming. We don't want so much plastic. Stop consuming so many things with plastic. We don't want so much stuff in our oceans. Stop consuming. Use it until it's broken. Use it until it doesn't work. This is the answer. Reduction. So we got to do this work inside. Feel your feelings. Feel what feels shitty, and what if it's not you? What if it's the system? And then you have to question it, and then you change. And then you're not a battery for the system anymore. And then everyone attacks you, but you thrive because that's how reality works. Reality will support you. Reality will support you. Humanity might not. Reality will. I promise you that. Do your work. You are not a battery in the machine. You are not here to produce. Reconnect with your humanity by connecting to your pain first, loving yourself first, and that will teach you all you need to know. And it will take you on a wild ride. And you will face your fear of death, and you will face your fear of being alone. Face it. Go into it. Lean in. Feel it. Move it through your body. That's what we do with pain. And it will lead you to all these things that I just said. You will figure it out for yourself. Feel your feelings and be on your own side. That is the answer. Feel your feelings and be on your own side. Let that journey take you over and over. Okay? That's the end of this live. I love you all so much. You're worthy. You are not a commodity. Your identity cannot be commoditized. Your feeling of inclusion cannot be commoditized. You need to feel it. Be your own parent. Love yourself. You're not broken. Let your pain guide you to what's not real and end your relationship with it.